WisconsinEye's Campaign 2024 programming is sponsored by Wisconsin Counties Association, Nicolet National Bank, Wisconsin Hospital Association, Operating Engineers Local 139, the Wisconsin Realtors Association, the Wisconsin Laborers District Council, and North Central State's Regional Council of Carpenters. To support programs like this, please consider a tax-deductible donation at wiseye.org/donate or by texting WisCI to 44321.
Jeff Foster of Colfax is the Democratic candidate for the 67th Assembly District. The election is November 5th. Jeff Foster, welcome to WisconsinEye.
Well, thank you for having me.
So may I ask you, what is your campaign's key message? Why are you running for this office?
Well, I have several things to say about that. My name is Jeff Foster, and I'm running for this new 67th Assembly District, which includes Barron County, the upper half of Dunn County, and Auburn Township in Chippewa County. My election campaign is based on the rural values of freedom, family, and community. These values that I believe we all hold. We cherish our freedom and stand up to defend it when that freedom is threatened, and some of our freedoms are under attack right now. Women should have the freedom to control their own bodies. Citizens should have the freedom to vote in the least restrictive and safe manner. Our children should be free from gun violence. We all support the family value of caring for our children, and they deserve high-quality child care. If child care is supported, a parent can continue to work and will spend their earnings in the local community. That parent will also pay income taxes, which sends money back to the state. Everyone wins. A well-funded public education system is a value that cannot be shortchanged. In today's competitive environment, our school system needs to be the best they can be. Another common value is family security. If a parent gets seriously ill, the bills don't stop. A medical emergency could become a financial family disaster. While the ailing parent recovers, paid family medical leave would maintain the household. I was raised in a village of 1,100 people, and I know that the success of our communities is dependent on the local economy. Startup support for new businesses and conservation incentives for existing businesses keep communities stable. Assistance for apprenticeships and graduates to return and raise a family in their hometown would grow our communities. Investments like these would ensure vibrant, sustainable communities. I have 2 grown children and 5 grandchildren. My wife and I bought our farm 32 years ago, and I co-founded the Wisconsin Sheep Dairy Co-op and served as its first president. At the peak of production, I milked 150 ewes. I've got a bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee in interpersonal communication and a master's degree in business administration from UW-Oshkosh. I also completed graduate coursework in social work and was employed as a Child Protective Services social worker. The Wisconsin Assembly has chosen not to prioritize the values of freedom, family, and community. My education and experience reflect the values we all cherish. I ask that you vote for me, Jeff Foster, on November 5th to represent you in the Wisconsin State Assembly.
Given those priorities, what would be a bill that would be a first priority for you to bring forward in the legislature?
Probably reproductive rights for women. That is something that's been in the news, and it's been controversial throughout the state, and it's time that we deal with that issue and give recognize the rights of women.
So if you're elected to be entering during a biennial budget year, the state has more than a $4 billion surplus now.
That's right.
What would be your top 2 priorities for use of that surplus funding?
Well, there are many things that we could do, should do, and I would want to negotiate that not only with my colleagues in the Democratic side, but also with Republicans. My main focus in dealing with that budget surplus is to develop a foundation for the things that we want to accomplish. Rather than giving the money back, like some Republicans have suggested, or spending it on expenses, I think we need to put that into capital improvement, whether that would be in infrastructure or education, just a number of issues, but it needs to deal with foundational improvement.
What about tax cuts and tax reform? Is that part of your campaign platform in any way?
I would like to see the wealthy and corporations pay a higher percentage. I think that the middle and lower classes are already taxed appropriately, and maybe we can actually do something with that too, to bring that down. But we need to be able to afford the things that we deserve for our families and our children, our communities.
You mentioned K12 education as a priority for
Yes.
you. What specifically needs to change in K12 education?
Well, we need to provide greater funding so that schools don't have to continuously go to referendum. We need to fund special education at a much higher level than we currently do. It's embarrassing that we do not provide the resources to our most precious resource.
What about the state's higher education system? 4-year colleges, 2-year colleges, technical colleges? Where should the legislature focus on?
Well, unfortunately, the legislature has been cutting support for the UW system for decades. When I went to UWM back in the 70s, the state supported that system at 44%. Currently, the state is supporting the UW system at around 13%. That has led to tuition increases, not only here, but throughout the country, where other states have done similar things. And so, and that has created its own problems with tuition or student debt.
Student debt.
Yes. And so what we need to do, I think, is, again, realize that UW and other community colleges and other institutions of higher learning are a real resource for the state, and they are going to bring us benefits. They are an investment, not an expense.
Do you support full funding of the Universities of Wisconsin system?
I would have to look into that to be clear about whether that would be the right step or not, but we do need to increase funding dramatically.
What do you see as the state's largest workforce development challenge, and what's the solution?
Well, there are several. We need to support students, either apprentices or graduates, in being able to come back to their hometown communities. Our rural communities have been suffering for years, due largely to the disappearance of family farms. And we need to replace some of that economic activity with people who are now growing and going through schools and graduating, and we need to incent them to come back to their hometown so that they can flourish there and they can help their communities to flourish.
I have a few more workforce questions
All
for
right.
you. Investments in public and energy infrastructure grow our state's economy. There also provides an opportunity to invest in our state's workforce, but currently there are no requirements for hiring local workers. Would you support a state resident hiring requirement for state, local, and utility scale infrastructure investments?
Yes, I would.
You would support that as a requirement.
When at all possible, yes.
Employee classification is an issue in the construction industry.
Yes.
Some employers misclassify workers as independent contractors or pay them in cash off the books.
Right.
This lowers costs by avoiding payroll taxes and unemployment insurance, and it puts compliant companies at a disadvantage when bidding on projects.
Right.
Plus, those misclassified workers may be denied minimum wage protections or overtime pay. Are you aware of the issue?
Oh,
and
yes, I am.
What should be done about it?
Well, we need to hire union members and pay them what they're worth. And when an employee is hired, he needs to be paid what he's worth and for the proper classification. So there's just no getting around that.
Affordable rental housing is an issue in Wisconsin.
Yes.
Some support government-imposed rent control, while others argue keeping that rent artificially low will decrease rental supply and result in increased prices. What is your sense of housing as an issue, and do you support rent control or building more rental units or some other solution?
Housing in general is a big issue throughout the state and in my district as well. Rents that's a very difficult situation because many landlords aren't getting rich either. But on the other hand, rents have skyrocketed just to stay up with cost of living. And so I think that we do need to take a very strong look at the rental situation as well as mortgage situations throughout in development throughout the state so that we can develop good housing in stable neighborhoods and where people can prosper.
What is the state's role in that? Do you want incentives for builders or?
Well, I think we've already incented builders to some extent. I think what we need to do is we need to assist low-income renters. We need to look at maybe subsidizing rental units. And what I'd like to see is for us to incorporate mixed incomes within a community and build a community around those housing projects or developments, whatever we want to call them. But I think it's really important that we try to develop community, not just solve a rent or a housing issue.
Transitioning to healthcare.
Yes.
Medical systems are facing numerous headwinds in the form of inflation, workforce development, and issues around Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement, resulting in fewer services and even the closure of a hospital system here in western Wisconsin.
Sure.
What would you do to preserve access to care and prevent future closures?
Well, one thing we need to do is we need to fund the Medicaid expansion or pass that. We need to look at what are the requirements for hospital systems in rural development and rural areas so that they cannot be priced out of a market through competition that's maybe not entirely fair. So we need to really take a look at this so that all residents of Wisconsin have reasonable access to health care. Right now, there are women in my district that have to travel 60, 70 miles just to give birth in Eau Claire. And that just is unacceptable in this day and age.
Do you support increasing the Medicaid reimbursement rate to hospitals?
Yes. Yes, and we've recently increased Medicaid reimbursement for nursing homes, but still we're not anywhere near the top.
Mental health care.
Yes.
Growing concern for many Wisconsinites for state and county budgets. What are you hearing on this issue in your district, and what are some solutions you support? Mental
health care is way past due in this area of the state. In fact, the $15 million that was appropriated for a mental health facility to one of these hospitals that went under never got spent. Then that money was held up for any kind of assistance during that closure period. We really do need to take a very, very serious look at mental health facilities and their availability throughout the state, especially in my part of the state.
You mentioned this as a priority at the top of our interview. How should Wisconsin specifically move forward on the issue of abortion?
We need to codify Roe. We need to get back to a situation that had existed for over 50 years. And not to do that only puts us back in the dark ages of coat hanger abortions, and no one wants to go there.
What are the pressing transportation needs in your district, and how important is it that these are addressed and for the state to keep on schedule with reconstruction of aging interstates and corridors of commerce?
Well, the state several years ago rejected funding for mass transit from Chicago to the Twin Cities, went right through Wisconsin, and that was rejected by the legislature. We need to take a look again at mass transit. We need to also look at hub development for transportation systems so that people in my district, in the rural districts of Wisconsin, can have access to hospitals, to shopping, to any number of things without having to purchase their own car or try to maintain one. And so these are issues that are going to take years to develop, but I think we need to really get serious about the discussion.
PFAS and other water contaminants are a concern for a growing number of Wisconsinites.
Yes.
Do you see this as an important issue, and how would you address it?
Oh, it's a terribly important issue. Used to be that only third world countries had undrinkable water. Well, here in the state of Wisconsin, we've got places where you cannot drink the water. That is just totally unacceptable. PFAS, nitrates, phosphorus, these are all elements that shouldn't be in our drinking water, and we shouldn't allow them to be there in the first place. We need to hold companies accountable, farms, manufacturers, others, as part of their cost of doing business to take care of these issues.
We are down to our final two questions.
Yes.
How would you describe the leading differences between you and your opponent?
Night and day. My opponent is directly from the business world. He, in his interviews, have mentioned that he supports the business community and looks to forward their objectives. He doesn't seem to have a very wide range of interests. So although I have an MBA and I understand the importance of business and how it all works, and I am a capitalist, we do need to take care of our citizens, and that's the job of government. And so we need to take care of our resources. We need to put investments so that they will pay off for us in the future, and that's where I think our major differences are.
Final question.
Yes.
Let's say you're elected this fall and
Yes.
you get a magic wand you can use in the state capitol to resolve one issue in a way that brings all parties, all people together. What's the issue?
That's a very good question, because so many of these issues would go a long way to bringing us all together. Housing, education, our UW system, the environment. Wisconsin is going to be, in the Midwest, are going to be where a lot of residents who are now moving to Florida and to Phoenix and these other places, they're all going to be flocking here in the next 20 years as climate change becomes more and more devastating to the coastal and the southwest parts of the country. And we need to be prepared to benefit from that influx and to share with folks the opportunities that will exist here in Wisconsin.
All right. Thank you, Jeff Foster of Colfax, the Democratic candidate for the 67th Assembly District. The election is November 5th. Jeff Foster, thank you for talking with WisconsinEye.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
This programming is brought to you by our generous sponsors. Thank you for watching.